while not getting burnt out in the process, which is easy to happen when things just start rolling and rolling and rolling. I always get a lot out of his messaging and his tools and his systems, and I thought everybody here could benefit too, because after all, we are the heads of our own businesses with controlling our branding and marketing and message. Some of us are in teams, some of us are our own, but I just thought something that we could all benefit from, his message. And just a little bit by way of his background for education. So he went to University of Vermont undergrad, and then went to DU Law School, and then actually got his certificate in authentic leadership from Nairobi University in Boulder. So really has a nice blend of some traditional and some non-traditional credentials to his name. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Don McLaughlin.
Thank you, Lisa, very much. Good morning, everybody. I really appreciate that gracious introduction, which was sort of the prettier version in many respects. Because the truth is, what we're going to dive in today is born of my own experience, and a lot of that very painful. Lisa gave the Cliff Notes version, but the reality is, in the growth of this business that I founded, it was right in the midst of the 2008 financial crisis. And many will remember the uncertainty and challenges created after 2008. And for me in particular, all of a sudden I had, a team reliant on the business for their income and their families. And there was a lot of volatility in the aftermath of that crisis that lasted for years. And so I just want to say that as much as Lisa alluded to, the firm prospered, it also hit periods of plateauing and backsliding that was terrifying for me. As a person that went to law school to avoid numbers, and all of a sudden I was confronted with dealing with lots of numbers and hundreds of thousands of dollars in money that I borrowed to build this business. So that came to a head in 2012, November 3rd, 2012, at the Broadmoor Resort, the beautiful Broadmoor Resort in Colorado Springs, when I had a rock bottom moment. And it was a real wake-up call for me. And so what I'm going to be sharing is what came out of that very dark experience that I'm so grateful, through a combination of both grace and grit, probably more grace than grit, really did turn things around. And as Lisa mentioned, we really grew the business rapidly, and I'm going to be touching on some of the primary reasons that, in retrospect, I see what were the big changes. And the reality is, I think right now we've been feeling this, in 2026 likely has some complexity and uncertainty that we've just not seen before. And I think that shows up in demands on us to make better decisions, and it's more of an emotional load. It's more taxing emotionally. So what I remember so well is just the grinding of work. That worked for a while until it doesn't, and I see this with my clients, most of whom are running high seven-figure a year businesses, and real estate is much like their businesses, right? Highly interactive with clients. It's a high emotion profession. It's a roller coaster. We were just talking about this, right? Real highs and can be some real lows. And energy, clarity, presence, these are the things that are part of the product that clients experience, right? This is part of the interaction with clients. And so, when your vitality drops, decisions become more reactive, and clients start to feel it, right? Confidence tends to erode, and small setbacks feel much heavier than they really should. So I think sustaining and achieving and sustaining peak performance. It's not about one thing. It's about several different things, and there tend to be small things. And it's not necessarily about doing more. It's about showing up more often in a highly resourceful state. That's really what it comes down to, day in and day out. And this is so important. I underscore with my clients because I had to learn it very painfully. Your business will never outgrow your leadership. Your business will never outgrow your leadership. So this is the opportunity it presents to look at how we're leading. And this is just not frankly in business, right? Because our personal lives are sort of wrapped up into business. This is the nature of entrepreneurship and running our own show. So when our performance feels heavier than it really should, and instead of feeling cleaner, it's really dragging on us. It's rarely a skill issue. It's not about capability. It's about capacity, and that's what we're really going to dive into. Because in my experience, sustained high performance, it's just not about performance, but it's also about enjoyment and fulfillment. Because it's one thing to be productive, but it's another thing to feel fulfilled and enjoy what you're doing, because that comes across, right? There's really 3 trainable capacities, right? If it's not a capability issue, it's more a capacity issue. These are the 3 that I discovered and that really forms the basis of so much of my work with clients. It's about clarity, knowing what truly supports your best work. Presence, being grounded and focused in the moment. And resilience, recovering quickly and responding most resourcefully when things go sideways. And things are going to go sideways, right? We know this. It's built into the equation. So these are not personality traits. In my experience, they are trainable. So let's jump right into clarity. Clarity is really creating and cultivating conditions for your best thinking and decision making. It's not, I think clarity we often think is about certainty. It's not necessarily about certainty, it's about discernment and knowing what really restores and supports you and your best decision making and how you show up day in and day out. More effort without clarity, this is kind of alluded to this before, more effort without clarity just tends to create friction and resistance that can then become a grind. So I think that as entrepreneurs, which we all are, we can often solve the wrong problems very, very well through hard work. And what I mean by that is a lack of clarity, right? We start focusing on the wrong things and doing too many things, and that leads to busy work, overreaction, and emotional decisions that sometimes don't work out so well. So I think most of us already have a sense of, and maybe we know what brings us clarity. But the challenge is protecting time for cultivating clarity. And what does that look like? Well, it's individual to us, right? It could be, walking in the middle of the day without distraction, just connected to the elements. It could be taking time in the morning quietly before jumping onto our device or jumping into work. Journaling, exercise, time in nature, or doing a weekly review without a sense of urgency. So I'm going to invite you to grab the worksheets, and on this first, we're going to just quickly jump into an exercise of clarity, and take 2 or 3 minutes and just jot down what activity do you know already brings you clarity. Just think about when you felt most clear, what were you doing? when you experience that clarity pretty consistently. And then how often are you actually making time for that right now? And what's a realistic way you can schedule that into your calendar each week if you're not doing so already? Like what day, what time? All right, one more minute. Okay, great. Anybody have a burning desire to share what they wrote down when they want to schedule it?
I will.
Thank you, Lisa.
Sure thing, Don. So, originally thought, I was like, skiing downhill. I think that's invigorating. I was like, that's really brings me clarity. But then I thought about it a little bit more, and where I get more peace and calmness and true clarity is when I do yoga in the morning. Absolutely. To have those calm moments, the quiet. The exhilarating skiing is great too, but I'm more in the moment where I'm going to turn, but I get more space in my head when I do my yoga.
I love that distinction because there's, right, the invigoration like skiing, right? But when you're connected, inward, right? And for some, it might be skiing. Anybody else?
Walking the dog in the morning. Like I like to get up and I have to walk the dog because I have an active dog, but walking the golf course, and I'll put on my headphones and I'll listen to a podcast or something like that. It kind of really resets because you're breathing and you have the cold air in the mountains.
Love it.
I find it really relaxing.
That's great. Yeah.
Get started.
Many clients, that's like the baby steps. If they've been ignoring this, walk it in the morning. And I think it's no secret why, many of us have heard, right? The legendary stories of Steve Jobs. What did he do? Walked. Constantly walked. And had important meetings while walking. So, love that. Anybody else?
I was just, for me, the most crystallizing one for that is uphill mountain biking. Like when you're going uphill on a mountain bike, it gives me full clarity, but then I would just say anything outdoors exercise. And then my partner Patrice has started me on journaling and setting intentions, and I really enjoy that in the morning.
Excellent. Great. I can totally relate because one of the things that helped me turn things around in a big way was uphill running. Long distance ultra running and spending time in the mountains moving is that for me. And journaling, there's something about writing that is magical, right? And there's science behind it too. Great. So, clarity isn't accidental, right? I think that just this little exercise shows us that we can cultivate it, right? We can create the conditions. And it really is, we can design it, right? But it's got to be protected. So let's shift into presence and learning how to reset frequently and show up more fully. Because we're clearly going to be under strain, right? We're going to have curveballs like this morning. Clients, customers, they don't really respond to strategy, right? They respond to how they feel, right? And that really is a function of state. And what are we doing to help them experience a state in which they're feeling really good about working with us? What does that do? It improves trust, communication, and negotiation, right? because you're developing that relationship. It reduces emotional reactivity under pressure. So part of this is just slowing down. And I think, in our culture of hustle, slowing down is often sort of frowned upon, but it's actually not disengaging. It actually restores judgment, tone, and timing. So one of the ways to do that I work with my clients on, and for some of you, this will, it may come across as elementary, but it's just our breath and the power we have to reset psychologically and physiologically just through breathing. So we're gonna jump in and do this exercise, box breathing. I'm sure some of you have heard about it, maybe even practice it. But in my experience, it is the most effective, immediate nervous system reset that pays huge dividends when practiced regularly. It restores calm and focus under pressure. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do 3 rounds of this. It's very, very basic. We're going to inhale for 4. We're going to hold for 4. We're going to exhale for 4. And then we're going to hold at the bottom for 4 before we inhale again for 4. And you can breathe through your nose. You can breathe through your mouth on the first round. The second round, I'll invite you to breathe through your nose and exhale through your nose, just to have that experience. So what I'll ask you to do is just sit comfortably, maybe ideally feet flat on the floor, just your hands resting on your lap, on your thighs somewhere. And I'll just guide everyone through that. So as you close your eyes, just immediately notice where you are in your breath. Is it high? Is it low? And inhale for a count of 4. Hold for 4. Exhale for 4. Hold at the bottom for 4. And now inhale through your nose for 4. Hold for 4. Exhale for 4. Hold at the bottom for 4. And then inhale again for 4. Hold for 4. Exhale for 4. And then just take a deep breath, open your eyes. And I'll just check in and ask you to check in about awareness of your breath. God bless. That very simple, short exercise, right? Hopefully had that experience of, oh, this is my breath. And then also, how does that extend to my body, to the extent you had any awareness of what am I feeling? And then also your attention. Did it settle at all, right? That internal dialogue. This is a great opportunity before important meetings, difficult conversations or calls. Certainly use it between showings with the end goal of showing up fully, most resourcefully, in the moment, fully present. Because in my experience, even dealing with senior lawyers inside of Fortune 500 companies, it was showing up fully present, just to know exactly what they're going through, that had the biggest impact in terms of winning more business. That's the bottom line. So what I'd love you to do is take your sheet out again. You've got them, move into the present section, and just what did you notice at all? Just jot down anything you noticed, and then where would a brief reset of this sort of breath help most, do you think, in your day? And what do you think might change if you began each day doing something like this on a regular basis? All right, one more minute. Okay, great. Would anybody like to share what occurred to them or anything they wrote down?
I think it clears the mind so before the box breathing, maybe you're having racing thoughts about just what you have going on, and then when you do that, just all of a sudden, my mind just stopped. All the thoughts stopped.
Nice.
It gives you focus.
Yeah, it's amazing how the mind runs away with itself, right? And through the body, in a way, right, breath is a way to step out of that hamster wheel.
I have a couple of things. I guess I'm thinking a little more specifically about what we go through as brokers on a day-to-day basis. At the time, I guess I find often that I'm have racing thoughts and can't control what's going on just in the middle of the night. We all wake up, right? We're all
Yes.
thinking of all the details of a contract or something we might miss, how you could do something differently. And yet we also know that there's really nothing we can do about it at that time. It's better for us to actually get the sleep calm down, but instead of taking the breath then, for sure, would help to try to put all those thoughts out of your mind. Also, we deal daily with a lot of people that are under the same pressure that we're under. That would be another broker maybe showing a property. So oftentimes when they're coming to show a property, we're having to deal not only with the buyers maybe and how they're feeling, but with the broker and their energy. So kind of taking a deep breath and getting yourself in a position of figuring out what the situation is between those people and how you can help before just kind of jumping in. Makes sense, kind of gauging, I guess, that situation.
I love it.
Deep breath helps.
Yes, for sure, right? Because our energy spreads, right? Science shows us that. And I love your point about the middle of the night, right? It happens to all of us, right?
Yeah.
For whatever reason, the mind seems to find a window in the middle of the night to wake us up. And I think sitting up and going through some box breathing, incredibly effective. And it's something that I use with some frequency because the mind never stops in many respects. So I love that.
So for the past few months, I bought a big red light panel. And for the past few months, I wake up every morning at the same time and I do breath work for 20 minutes in front of my red light.
Love it.
And I have found that it keeps me actually calm throughout the day. And I sleep so well. I've noticed that my sleep is completely different. And I don't know if it's the red light or the breathing, but maybe a mixture of both.
Yes.
But it has completely changed my day.
Just a red light, so what's that?
What is red
You'll
light
have to send us
therapy?
a link, yeah.
Yeah.
I also start the day with my red light meditation. That goes back to my number one of where I find most clarity is in that moment. And it's all day. And my sleep patterns, and I wear my Apple Watch, are perfect. Just the best sleep and it's been
What is
consistent.
it though? Is it, what's?
Red light?
It's not for your
Well, I mean,
skin.
is it?
Yeah,
well, I
yes,
think
that's
I've
like
seen
red
it.
light mask, it's
You
that
get
in
a
a
little
panel.
sleeping bag
Uh-huh.
of
Yeah,
it.
they have sleeping bags, they have panels, there's different frequencies, strengths, etc.
No.
I mean, it has a lot of benefits for lots of different things, but it's helped my sleep. It just, I feel like I'm calmer throughout the day. Like when I just speak to people or when somebody seems frustrated, I feel just a little bit more like in tune with my calm.
Well,
Whereas normally I'm like a little bit more like,
You do seem calmer.
well, paired with the right intention and
yeah,
also the breath,
yeah.
right? I mean, you're both alluding to that, and I think it's a testament to the power of breath that we so easily
Yeah.
ignore, right? It is like it controls the motherboard in many respects. So I love that.
Jeans, you can go to Vail Valley Wellness,
Oh,
or
yes.
anyone can,
Oh.
and they can wrap you, your whole body.
Also, Yoga Off Broadway
Yeah.
does red light classes, and they're
Oh
amazing.
wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Red light.
I've not done that.
glasses,
Mhm.
Like yoga.
I mean, I think a lot of
And they have
it's probably
panels on the wall.
breath work.
Yeah.
Right.
Where's that?
In Eagle. There you go. 8:30 tomorrow.
Well, my wife does it every morning. Yeah.
Use the red sauna thing, infrared sauna.
Oh yeah, that's great too.
Oh, yeah,
I like the close sound.
yeah.
Oh, that's
At the club, they have that.
But one thing I noticed when, with this prompt, what would change, if we felt more grounded and
Yeah.
present. And I will say, I feel like clients feel that. They feel that when you're frantic and scattered inside. And I have found that some of the leaders that I met that have been the most powerful, effective leaders, when I meet them, happenstance, not, just can sometimes happen. They have a way, they're really powerful, they make you feel like you're the only person in the room. And no matter how big they are, how, powerful they are, when you meet, there's some that you meet, you're like, they're making me feel like I am the only person in this room. And I feel like it's just being present and in tune and focused on who you're talking to at that moment. So that's, I think, what would change.
Yes, the perfect example of this idea that it's not so much about being the most productive or articulate. It's about who's in that state of presence that tends to have the biggest impact. And yeah, I think we all know what it's like not to be in that state when we're frazzled and I thought as like business would grow and there's more revenue that somehow it would make it easier. It actually made it harder, right? There's more at stake. And painfully I had to learn that, just using force and frantic effort,
Doesn't work.
it works to a point and then it backfires, right? Law of diminishing return. And that's a perfect segue, because like this little exercise we did, right? It really is about slowing down, right? And this is something I just reinforce with my clients so frequently. Slow down to speed up. It's so counterintuitive, especially for me. I feel, and so I think driven, accomplished people, right? We want to get stuff done quickly. And that can really trip us up over time and hamper our efforts. And one way to counterintuitively slow down is building resilience, and doing so by embracing discomfort, expanding our capacity to be resilient and act most resourcefully through controlled discomfort. Resilience is not necessarily about toughness or willpower. It's really about leadership endurance. This goes back to the leadership concept. And we all know deals fall apart, clients change their minds 1,000,001 times, right? Outcomes are very unpredictable. This is part of the deal, right? It's just part of it. And getting worn down and starting to burn out, it's rarely truly about workload. It's much more about misalignment and our diminished capacity to be resilient, right? And to renew and recharge in ways that that helps us weather the highs and the lows with much more equanimity. So here, my contention is controlled discomfort expands our capacity to build resilience. It also builds confidence under stress, under duress, and it improves our ability to recover quickly. So what do I mean by controlled discomfort? I think you may all have a sense, but like strength training, long hikes, exposure to cold and heat. Hot yoga is one example of dealing with the discomfort of a hot yoga class when you're like, oh my God, will you please go to the next posture? Because I'm struggling and suffering right now. Right? This expands our capacity to be resilient. Intervals or sprints, going up a set of stairs at a high school, that builds resilience. So the important thing though, is consistency. Consistency is king. It's not about duration or intensity. If it's 10 minutes that you can afford right now to do something that builds resilience, it's 10 minutes. Just take it, right? Because I think we often let ourselves off the hook because, oh, it's not part of the 45 minutes that I wrote down as my resolution for January 1, so F it. I'm out, right? No. Smallest effective dose of anything that builds resilience. And it's got to be something enjoyable enough that you'll stick with, and yet challenging enough to stretch your capacity. So I'm going to ask you to turn back to the worksheet, item 3. What form of movement, controlled discomfort, helps you build resilience through that discomfort? Just jot down what comes to you. And then, importantly, what movement you find enjoyable and that is challenging, that you can do on a more consistent basis than you're doing right now, perhaps. And then that last question, when can you schedule it weekly if you're not doing so already, or recommit to it? And while you're jotting that down, maybe think about this. How does avoiding discomfort show up in your work or decision making right now? How does avoiding discomfort show up for you?
Would it be great, but it'd be a lot better than.
All right, one more minute. All right. Anybody want to share what they identified?
I will. Skinning uphill.
That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally, it's totally enjoyable, but it's hard. It's really hard.
Controlled discomfort.
Control, yeah, but you can, you start to feel you feel your heartbeat, you sense your breathing, you're very, very much present, but it's hard. It's hard, yeah, it's not easy.
Discomfort.
Yes.
Uphill mountain.
Yes.
It's like mountain biking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, going up
Mountain
against
biking.
You never regret it. but
Yeah,
it's
you
like
never regret it.
It's,
getting there.
and feeling that edge, right? Where you just want to say, oh my God, I'm stopping.
This is not
Like
fun.
1,000,001 times,
Million
right?
times, right?
Oh yeah.
And
Not fun.
no, it's not fun. And just being okay with that discomfort on a regular basis expands capacity for resilience. Anybody else?
You must have some good examples. Given what you've been through and how you've overcome different things, I think. So you working out and boss.
Yeah. Lifting free weights. Pushing it.
Yes.
Always pushing.
Yes, right, because you get to that edge. Yes.
Go to burnout.
Yes, exactly. In a paradoxical way, right? And for my clients, it's getting on the floor and doing push-ups. If that's 3 push-ups, it's 3 push-ups. But feeling that burn and being okay with it. Okay, great.
Are we all gonna do push-ups?
Down for 3.
Do it! Do it!
Who can last the longest on the wall sit?
Okay, on the walls, everybody.
Yeah.
Well, so again, just to recap on this, from my perspective, resilience is not about willpower necessarily. It's really about trained capacity. So I want to just bring things together and talking about how to really put things into practice. Because in my experience, clarity, presence, and resilience, these are not like nice to haves. These are not extras. As entrepreneurs, they are they're critical. They're the foundation of sustainable high performance and also enjoyment and fulfillment, right? Because if we're constantly at the whim of the highs and the lows, it's not going to be that enjoyable, right? It's not going to be that fulfilling, and then we're going to experience like that, just that grind and then the disengagement. That's very dangerous, right? Because if we're disengaged from our work, we're gonna do so well. So the last prompt here on your sheet, what's the one practice that you want to commit to expand your capacity? Is it clarity? Is it presence and resilience? Which of those do you most connect with right now? And what are you going to do to expand your capacity in that particular area? All right, another 30 seconds. Okay. So, with respect to this number 4, we're running a little short on time. So, I'll just say this, and I think we can all relate to this, right? If it's not in our calendars, it's not really a commitment, right? It's kind of a nice intention. So, gotta schedule it, right? Pull your phones out, put items on your calendar. Right, I think we all know this, and it helps keeps us honest, even if we see it on our calendar and we blow it off. It sits there on our calendar, and we know that it's a commitment we've made. So, just to wrap up, and in closing, again, this idea that 2026 is sure to bring, already is bringing, more complexity and uncertainty, that I think our tendency is to want to work harder. But my contention is that it's not necessarily about working harder, and instead slowing down and Work from a stronger state, day in and day out. Right? That is the difference maker over time, particularly in periods of increased uncertainty. And when clarity and presence and resilience are protected and cultivated, confidence increases. Right? Energy stabilizes. Our ability to weather the storm increases, and both performance and enjoyment become far more consistent. So in closing, I'll just say, peak state isn't about a specific moment. It's about a practice that we're engaged in on a regular basis, and just invite you to consider how, on a more regular, consistent basis, you can cultivate clarity, presence, and resilience, and experience more enjoyment and fulfillment and better results. So I hope this was helpful. I so appreciate the opportunity to come in and share a part of my experience, because on one of my runs in 2025, the Audi Power 4 in Aspen, like hour 11, one of the things that came to me out of nowhere was to share what helped me come from a very dark place. So I appreciate the opportunity to do so.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Yes. In fact, my contact is on the edge of that sheet there. So, yes.
This is a nice way here.
On the far right, it's sadly in very small font. That was a technical challenge with me and.
Get your glass. You okay tomorrow?
You should, I don't know where I am.
Okay, we're still going to have the rest of the meeting. We can't leave yet. That was awesome, Don. Thanks so much.
You're so welcome.
Very good.
So, if I could whistle, does anyone whistle? Can you whistle? Patrice? You can, Jane.
Everybody tell us.
Okay, so now we're gonna, I feel very calm. I need to slow down. Breathe. So, Patrice.
Yes.
Would you like to give just an update on?
I thought you were I was going to tell you about journaling.
Yeah, I can tell you more.
I'm happy to do it if
It might
you'd
be
like.
more
I'll
fun
give
to
a little lesson. I don't want to take away from Don, though. No.
Thank you again so much. I'm going to get on the road back to Steamboat. I have a busy day.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm sure you do all too. Thanks again.
Okay, I'll give
See
you
you,
the
Lisa.
Grima update.
Yeah, just a quick
Okay.
update. What's going
Yeah.
on?
I just want to ask quickly, has anyone had